Hello, everyone, and welcome to What If Deku Was Doflamingo's Reincarnation. I have been watching One Piece recently, and I decided to do this one because I thought it'd be a little bit of fun. With that being said, if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and let's get into it.
Alright. Just before I start, I do want to let you know I am a bit sick right now, so my voice might be a little bit stuffy, and I might mess up the recording a little bit, so I might not even post this. Let's get into it. Deku wasn't just your ordinary kid. At the age of 4, his quirk would awaken. A mutation of both his mother's and his father's quirk. An anomaly. He'd be playing with Bakugo one day, walking through an abandoned yard site. They had found a good spot to play across a mossy log. They began to cross, led by Bakugo, who jumped the gun and began to fall. About to hit the floor, Deku threw his arm forward, sending a string from each of his 5 fingers, which caught Bakugo midair, wrapping around both of his arms. Bakugo winced in pain as he looked up, and just barely saw paper thin strings glistening in the sun holding onto him. He was slowly lowered down, looking at the strings, which had been dyed red by a couple drops of his own blood. Though they weren't razor sharp yet, they weren't blunt either. He released the strings and rushed down to help Bakugo up. Bakugo looks at his hands and arms, then up at Deku. They were completely shredded. In one piece, but with deep cuts. Bakugo called Deku a villain, sending a small explosion before he started to cry and runs home. He gets home and tells his mum that his quirk awakened. It was some string quirk. I saved Bakugo from falling. Inko gets in the car and rushes to the quirk doctor. The doctor runs some tests and comes back into the room with a serious look on his face. Miss Midoriya, would you happen to know this child? Bakugo walks through the door, crying with casts on both his arms. Inko looks in shock and asks what happened. The doctor explains what Deku did and how his quirk works. He had the power to manipulate razor-sharp strings and emit them from his body. A rather violent and vulgar power at its core, if you ask me. Deku looks down at the floor before looking back up at the doctor and telling him that he only did it to save him, sticking up for himself. The doctor doesn't believe him and sends both him and Inko home, reprimanding Deku for his quirk use. Deku would restrain his powers for the time being due to this incident, not using it for a long while. Deku would be 14, 10 years later, walking into class one day. He's quiet since that day as a child, keeping to himself, being unconfrontational. Bakugo would have his same mentality, but would still have a large percent of his arms covered in scars, which burns every time he uses quirk, along with the scars that burn mentally every time he sees Deku. He is not mad at him for his injuries. If anything, he's scared of him, bullying him so he doesn't train his quirk as much. Bakugo stares at Deku as the teacher interrupts him, snapping him out of thought. I know you all want to be heroes, he yells while throwing the paper in the air. The class goes crazy before quieting down. Well. We have 2 of our own going to UA's hero course, eh? Bakugo and Zuku? I thought you were quirkless. Everyone laughs but Deku and Bakugo. Deku puts his head on the desk and closes his eyes, waiting for the final bell. The bell rings and he stands up, walking quickly out of class as not to miss out on Bakugo's goonies throwing insults at him. He muttered to himself and walked down an unfamiliar path. He walks down a tunnel and hears a rattling behind him. Before he can even react, a sludgy mass explodes from the sewer and latches onto Deku. Deku starts choking and clawing his way out, but there was no hope. He had only one hope left. His fingers began to twitch a little, before tensing and yanking Deku out of the sludge villain. He lies on the floor, clutching his breath as he sees a familiar figure standing in the tunnel. He hears a faint yell before a powerful gust of wind blows him back into a tree, knocking him out. All Might stood by him, reading through his notebook, reading through his thoughts, and analysis for the future as he waited for Deku to wake up. As Deku woke up, he would see All Might and start freaking out, asking for an autograph. Flipping through the pages, he'd see that it's already signed and thank him profusely. All Might asks him for a question before he leaves. So, what's your quirk, kid? Your notebook says you need to work on it, but you don't know how to start. Deku looks down and explains the situation to All Might, along with his quirk. All Might gives him words of encouragement and leaps off to jail, the sludge villain. Deku, feeling a new sense of purpose, decides to lock in and start grinding. Deku finds a spot in the junkyard and sneaks in to begin training. He has 10 months to get into UA shape. He grinds and begins training. Currently, he can only control 5 strings at a time, so 1 hand's worth, and the string production time is low. He trains using trash to sharpen his strings, using powerful attacks to slice progressively thicker metal. Around the 2-month mark, he learns he can use strings to increase his speed by using the elastic properties to propel him. He realizes the destructive power of his quirk after he got mad at the lack of his mastery, slicing clean through all the trash in the yard at once. He realized that motions increase his power exponentially, deciding to train finesse over power for the time being. For the next 8 months he trains, increasing his string count to 10, so 1 on each finger, and increasing their length to reach to the clouds along with creating some defensive moves to help in case of emergency. He also trains his mind, meditating and studying to keep his emotions in check and to stay happier altogether. Deku walks through the gates, head up and eyes determined. He sits next to Bakugo and doesn't say a word. Getting through the written exam, he goes to the practical after changing into his hero costume. He walks in drippy, silk do-rag on, silk coat on, looking clean, with those goofy-ass sunglasses, rocking a nervous smile. The door swings open and Deku flicks up a finger before jumping and flicking himself into the air. Dancing on the clouds, he looks down. He looks like Gojo after he almost died. He opens his arms, rolling his finger out before violently tensing them and flinging a string into the exam floor. Spreading the string out, he pierces multiple robots and throws them into the air at once. Closing his eyes and smiling, he brings both his hands together in a claw-like motion, slicing all the robots into pieces. All the teachers look in awe as he opens and closes his arms in a fluid motion, completely obliterating all the robots, saving anything from falling on the examinees. Nezu looks at Deku, reading his file. Interesting. Deku looks down, laying on a couple strings attached to the top of buildings, watching as the other examinees run below him. He was about to make his escape before he heard a tiny voice, just a peep. He swung down to the floor and felt it vibrating, seeing a girl trapped under the rubble as a giant robot reared its head from around the corner. Deku jumps into action, running towards the 0-pointer. He looks up. He uses his strings to wrap up rocks and pick them up, slicing them into pebbles. He yanks her from the rubble and runs with her, not really wanting to test himself with the 0-pointer. He leaves after getting the girl healed and trains until his acceptance letter comes through the mail. Izuku Midoriya, you have passed with flying colors, young man. You managed to get a whopping 60 villain points and 40 rescue points. Deku walks into class on his first day. Seeing Bakugo, his expression changed. He looked the other direction and sat at the front of the class. Uraraka comes up to him and introduces herself to him, but the man in a sleeping bag interrupts him and tells him to go outside as they will be having a quirk apprehension test. Everyone stares at Deku as he gets changed after seeing his body. He has little scars all over his body from using his quirk, little cuts that never got time to heal right as he was training. Bakugo looks in shock and Kirishima finally speaks up. Whoa, dude, did you get attacked by a bear or something? Deku laughs and says he got attacked by his own quirk, and it took him a while to get the hang of it, looking over at Bakugo. They meet outside after getting changed and Aizawa explains the rules. He throws Deku the ball and tells him to throw it. Deku attaches a string to the ball and slingshots it into the atmosphere by using a cloud as leverage. The class is shocked and Aizawa is even shocked, impressed at the infinity score Deku got. Deku goes on to score very high on each test, getting number 2 after Momo. Aizawa doesn't expel anyone as he sees them all as great potential and sends them off to their next class. They get back to class, regular day. Sun is shining. Deku is thinking of more ways to utilize his quirk, jotting his thoughts into a notebook. Midway through writing, All Might pops up through the door. Coming through like a normal person. Everyone loses their mind. Huh? We're getting trained by All Might? All Might smiles and presses a big red button. Booyah! Go get these on and meet me down at Ground Gamma for your first combat training. Everyone rushes to get their assigned box and makes their way to Ground Gamma. He explains the rules and how to win. Everyone looks at everyone's costume. Deku's costume stands out. His looks like Doflamingo's costume, but replace those whack-ass pants and shoes. All Might then picks up lots. Looks like first time will be Deku and Uraraka versus Bakugo and Ida. Deku looks at Bakugo, who meets his eye. They both quickly look away, and Bakugo scans down his arm, looking at the scars that still hold him back today. They make their way into the building, strategizing. I don't know what Bakugo will do, but his quirk is something else. They walk up to the second floor staircase, and Deku stops. Wait, he's here, he says coldly, looking up the staircase. He sends his front two fingers in the shape of a gun, pointing them towards the roof. Bang, he says, sending string shots, ricocheting around the second floor. Bakugo dodges and starts blowing towards the direction of the staircase. Deku tells Uraraka to keep going up the stairs to the third floor. He has some business to attend to. Him and Baku finally stare each other down after a long 10 years. Deku gives off a nervous grin, but Bakugo shoots him a glare instead, lowering his stature before he blasts forward at Deku, keeping his eyes open for an oncoming attack. Deku stands there, thinking about what he should do. He doesn't want to embarrass Bakugo. He has nothing against him. He speaks. You know, I've always wanted to apologize for what happened as kids, but you never gave me the chance to. Never gave me the time of day. Why was that? His right hand twitches as if he's playing with a ghost piano. Traps Bakugo, a string on each wrist and ankle, completely paralyzed. We can fight in a second, just tell me. Bakugo grows furious. Let go of me, you damn villain! He screams. Deku looks down, letting go of Bakugo, who immediately blasts towards him. Deku looks up, dead eye, and shakes his head. I thought you got over this. You know, I'm no villain, Bakugo. Bakugo barks back. You think I can control it? It's primal. Just leave it at that. Bakugo throws a massive right hook at Deku, but Deku blocks, making a thick string wall next to him. Bakugo spins and throws a kick, being caught on a piece of string, using his momentum against him and sending him into a wall. You know, I trained my string to be as blunt as a way to win without bloodshed, like I saw with you. I'm just as scared of it as you are. Bakugo stops and yelled, I told you to stop talking, you villain! Pulling the pin on his gauntlet, All Might screams, Bakugo, no! You could kill him! But it's too late. An explosion encompasses the hallway, breaking through the floor below him. Bakugo looks down, seeing his arm was aimed downwards. He growls, You damn Deku! Deku standing in front of him, sending a string, breaking his other gauntlet instantly. Wrapping Bakugo up once again, he decides to end it. He slams Bakugo against the wall and sends strings to cocoon him up, leaving him humiliated. Deku then walks upstairs, finding Uraraka standing at the doorway. He looks over, seeing Ida talking to himself. They both laugh and walk through the door. Ida runs at them, but is caught by the string and held in place. Watching the bomb as they walk over and touch it, the class mutters before Kirishima talks. Damn, that was rough, but manly. Everyone nods, even All Might. They go on to the rest of the fights as usual. Due to this, Deku was thought highly of in his class and therefore voted for president, Ida being vice president.